seat someone as chairman of this meeting for this purpose only. Is there a motion?
Yes?
State your name, please.
Mike Marino.
Thanks, Mike.
You're making a motion?
He asked for a motion, didn't he?
Yes.
Yes. And your motion is
The motion is to proceed with the meeting.
Okay.
with Steve as chair?
Steve is the chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Trying to help you out.
Thank you.
All in favor, signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, none heard, motion carries. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is the proof of notice. The proof of notice has been posted according to the bylaws and the state statute relative to this annual meeting, and we so accept it as being posted and notice being provided pursuant to statute and local bylaws. At this time, let's stand and address the flag for our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Again, I'd just like to welcome everybody here. Thank you for coming. We could use probably 12 more, but we didn't get them, so we're fine. It's always a pleasure to everybody to get together in January. It seems like we kind of all show up in January, including myself. So we're going to go through some items on the agenda. There will be a question and answer period that will allow any questions or any concerns of the board and or the audience and the owners. At this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the 2014 annual meeting held the second Wednesday in January 2014. Is there a motion from the board?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None heard. Motion carries. President's comments. A couple of things, and you'll notice that the table is a little short of representation relative to the board. We're going to address that further on down the agenda in the next meeting, the organizational meeting. But unfortunately, we've accepted the resignations of Kirk Wesche and Pat Pondillo from the board as of last week. So therefore, it leaves 3 members on the board at this point in time. Our bylaws call that we have to have a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 15 board members. We have chosen at this point in time between the board to appoint one more member at the organization meeting, which follows this meeting. And we are thankful that he's willing to serve with us again, and that would be Bill Bushman. He's going to be reporting back to the board. And I know the board collectively really appreciate his taking the time and energy to come back and help us work. And so it's much, much appreciated. He will be appointed. As to any other appointments, we will take it under advisement relative to expanding the board to 5. As I said, the board has a determination of how many members actually sit on this board of directors. If we are so inclined and we feel it's beneficial to appoint somebody else, I would like to say that if there is anybody that would like to sit on this board and to be a member of this this group up here, gangsters, whatever you want to call us, please submit a resume or any of your information to Casey in the office. It will be forwarded to the board for consideration. And so if you wish to be on the board, we'd love to hear from you. And we'll go forward at the next meeting, which will probably usually run sometime in April, to establish the full board if required. But again, the only other thing I'd like to say under President's remarks, even though I'm not the President, I'm the Chairman today, I guess. I appreciate I talked to Kurt twice this weekend. I indicated to him it was my opinion that he has spent a hard time doing the board as far as getting things done. He accomplished a lot. Kurt he did an excellent job as far as working. He worked 4 and 5 hours a day. I think that's what he burned himself out. I think is what he did. But he has shown a concern for this association. And Pat has been on the board. I think Pat came up with me, and this will be starting my 4th year. So we appreciate everything Pat did for the board. We're going to do something in the future to thank them for their service. But their service was much appreciated. Finally, I'd like to say, based upon my experience in the board for the last few years, I want to thank you for allowing me to serve another year. The issue is that I'd like for us to just speak about very briefly here. is I want to make sure that we all are on the same page relative to the board and the condo unit owners. There's no difference between me, Bill, Jones, and I'm sitting up here, than you folks out here, except that we just happen to be on the board. We're all unit owners. This is our investment. This is our love of our life, so to speak. This is what we'd like to come here. We'd like to take care of it. So I wanted to move forward the next year, and I think we've gotten that way in the last year, is to work all together, not adversarial between the board and the owners, but just to get together so we can all work together as a unit, because we're here to represent you, not to just determine blatant policy and rules and regulations. So if we can all do that together, I think it's going to be a fabulous year, and I really look forward to it, so I know we can all cooperate and work together. Next on the agenda is manager's report. Also, you'll notice there's been a change this year. During the year, we went to a management company, went to Bristol. Now they're a different, what's the name of it?
First Service Residential.
First Service Residential. We have Casey in the office here, who you see all the time down here. She's here full-time during the day. I think Casey's doing a good job, and she responds to your needs. We have Dawn, who is the manager of this particular unit with other units. And then we have Liz, who's sitting directly to my left, as the vice president of the company, who's here for our annual meeting. We're working together with them. I think it has facilitated better transmission of ideas, thoughts, and work requests relative to the association of the units. We continue to do that, so anything you can do, you channel through these folks, and it'll lighten the load for the board. It'll also allow things to be done in a more timely manner. So anything you have, and I'm sure she's going to touch on this for you because she's going to give a report here, but we can work together as a unit to make this a better place to live. Okay.
Thank you. As Steve said, we're your managing entity, First Service Residential, and we came onto the property May 1st, 2014, and it's hard for us to believe that we've already been here 7 months. So that is a wow factor in my book. As Steve also said, you probably come in contact with most of our Ocean Towers staff, but in case you don't know, we have Casey Gilson. And I wanted to let everybody know Casey's hours, just so you're familiar, because the hours have changed immensely from when Tom was here. So Casey is here to assist 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then she takes a half-hour lunch in the middle of the day and then closes the office for that half hour, just so you know when she's available. We also have a full-time maintenance personnel, John Hollywood, and his hours are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., also with a half-hour lunch. So I just wanted to make it clear when they're here and available for you guys to see them. Myself, I am considered a portfolio manager, and you probably will mainly see me on Mondays. That doesn't mean I'm not around, and that doesn't mean that you can't get a hold of me anytime via telephone or email. And I correspond with Casey pretty much daily. So, but Mondays are my days that I come to the property, do our site inspections, walk the property, go through items with Casey and John, and coordinate with our board members as well. Property projects, when we first arrived on the property, you were literally in the final stages of painting your exterior of your buildings. The board had volunteer owners who worked very hard to make this a smooth transition. That was a lot of work for them to do, and we literally came in right behind them. So I want to thank everybody who volunteered to do that work, opening the shutters, shutting the shutters, moving the furniture, doing all that hard volunteer work for their efforts, and to thank everybody else owner-wise for your cooperation and patience, because that's a tough project and it takes a while. So we thank everybody for that. So the buildings now have a fresh new look. You may have also noticed that we've taken some hibiscus out that were in the middle of the parking lot area. They weren't doing so great, and then we had some concerns about visual, being able to see, and we've now replaced that with sod, and it looks really good. The property has been mulched, and we are continuing to work very hard with our landscape company about the weeding in the beds and the weeding on the dunes. That is an issue that we run into, and we're really trying to go forward to make sure that we get that taken care of for you. The maintenance staff has painted the trash rooms and the stairwells for both buildings, and he continues to do paint projects throughout the property. We've also added a slip-proof stripping on the stairs at the beach access where the dune is. And John continues to make our pool area, our restrooms, our clubhouse a priority in our cleaning list, as well as the buildings themselves. Just so you're aware, John works via work orders, and those work orders are processed through the office. But he also has a daily cleaning and maintenance schedule. So he's very loaded, but he does his daily performing items, and then he is also given work orders that he individually takes care of. He's generated the work order, he actually completes the work order, signs off on the work order, and then we put it in our system. So we're able to actually count and monitor how many work orders we're getting completed, and that's above and beyond his regular maintenance schedule. I wanted to go over a little bit the rules and regulations. One of our primary tasks upon coming into the property was to update the forms, organize the office, and instill policies and procedures that focus on the Ocean Tower rules and regulations. We've had a few people in violations of some of our rules and regulations, and just so you know, when we do find out those, we do contact that person directly or send them a letter. And we're working very hard to establish correspondence with everyone and let everyone know the rules and regulations and what we need to follow here at Ocean Towers. Our 2015 projects, we look forward to a very productive 2015. We have several projects that we are currently receiving proposals for, and one of those are an installation of cameras at our guard gate. You're probably very familiar that the guard gate has been hit, or I call it a guard gate, but it's a gate, has been hit several times. And unfortunately, every time that's hit, we have to pay for it to get fixed, and that comes from all of you. So with the installation of cameras, we're hoping to be able to find out if it's hit, who hit it, and then they confront the bill, you know, instead of everybody else. So that's one thing that we're working on right now. We also have proposals coming in to install a pressure relief valve that controls the water flow from the fire pump. So just in case, if that fire pump has to be activated, we're not getting too much flow of water going to our buildings. And that's another thing we're getting some proposals on right now. Replacing the tennis court gate, the far tennis court on that side, the gate is pretty bad, and we're looking at replacing that right now. And just had a company to come out to look at our pavers. Some of our walk-through pavers are very uneven, and we're getting some quotes on that right now. So the next item I have is reporting and work orders. Your management team is here to work directly with the community and the association and the board. So if you do see something that you feel needs to be addressed, please report those items to Casey. We will then assess them and create a work order if necessary, and we should be your first point of contact. Because if you go to a board member and then by the time it gets down to the office, you know, we may have already addressed it, we may have already looked at it, we may have already done a work order for it. So we're your first point of contact. If you see something, we're happy to accommodate, and we're happy to assess it and look at it. So please feel free to come in to the office, report it to Casey, we'll assess it, and that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to do for you. So please take advantage of us for that.
I'll let you know.
The community, I have to say, the residents in general, everybody that we've met so far, you've all been gracious, and we want to thank you so much for welcoming us. I know that it was a tough situation with people leaving and a new company coming in, and all of you have just been wonderful and supportive, and we really want to thank you for that. I just have a couple friendly reminders that some of the things that we're seeing from a management and office level, that we need to make sure that if you're having work done on your units, that first and foremost, the office needs to know what that work is. And there is an approval process that has to go through the board. So we need to know who's working in your unit and what they're doing, because if there's specific guidelines, we need to make sure that that gets approved first. Also, to make sure that all of your vendors check in at the office, because, I mean, you would like to know who's on the property. We like to know who's on the property too and what they're doing. So if you just have them directly just come into the office and check in, we have a sign-in sheet, and That way, everybody, if somebody comes in and says somebody's doing something here, we can say, yes, we know. And we know who they are and we know what they're doing. So please just make a point to have people check in the office. Your renters, your guests, have them check in at the office. The other thing that we're seeing is the guidelines for renters and sales to make sure that they're following the appropriate application process. We have a month minimum here. Not a week, not 2 weeks, not 3 weeks, it's a month minimum. So we do have certain criteria. There's an application fee, and a lease that we need a copy of. And again, it's helping us manage the property and helping you, knowing who's here, knowing why they're here, and knowing what they're doing here on the property. So just, again, use us as your point of contact. We're happy to be here. The only other item I really wanted to go over was John Hollywood, our maintenance staff. He has been available and done work for some owners after hours, and we do have a form that has to be filled out, releasing John and releasing the owner. So if you use John's services, we have a form that has to be signed by the owner and by John. And also, it's imperative that any work John does for you is after his association hours. Because we're a business, and John's part of the business serving you as a community. So if he's up in somebody's unit doing something, baseboards or something, basically you're paying him and somebody else is paying him, and we don't want to see that. So just make sure if you contract John for anything, it has to be general maintenance work. It can't be anything that a contractor should be doing, like electrical or plumbing. It's general maintenance work only. The form has to be filled out, and that it is after his hours here. And that's all I have to report for the manager's report.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you.
Sorry, that was long-winded, huh?